Hey guys, and welcome to another Starcraft 2 broadcast. Today we are going to be watching the beginning of a best-of series between IdrA spawning as the Red Zerg down in the bottom left position against Liquid HerO, a relatively new member of the team spawning as the Blue Protoss down in the bottom right. Now this is from Dreamhack Valencia. I hope I pronounced that right. Took place just a few days ago, and I've actually got a lot of replays from it, so I'm looking forward to casting a whole bunch of games from this series, and including the grand finals, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Now, with this being Shakura's Plateau, we've already got the probe heading out. We're going to see HerO go ahead and drop a pylon at the natural. I'm thinking maybe a Forge Fast Expand. He's going to come over with the probe, and he's going to want to watch for a couple things here. Basically, he wants to see what IdrA is doing with his expansion. Is IdrA going to be going for, say, a 15 hatch, or is he going to try to maybe play it safe, go 14-14, or maybe just drop a pool and then hatch? That's kind of the key information that HerO is going to be looking for. Now, let's talk about IdrA for just a second. Given the fact that they are pretty close by air, he's going to have to pretty much anticipate that he's going to have some Void Ray harassment. Possibly it is Mineral Line, or at least some Phoenix running around. Again, oh, nice little micromanagement there by HerO, keeping IdrA down, man. But you see, there's that spawning pool, and this is pretty much just in response to that probe finding the base so quickly. IdrA really didn't have a chance to get an expansion out. You see he's sitting on 15 supply. He knows that if he sends a drone up there, that probe is just going to be in hot pursuit and is going to be trying to block that, maybe even with the pylon, but kind of depends on what happens here. So HerO is going to be pulling that probe back now that it's pretty low in the hit points. I think from here, IdrA should still be able to get an expansion going. You know, he's going to have these early Zerglings. He's going to be able to get that Queen as well. So I think he's still going to be in a pretty good position. Of course, we do have HerO continuing to block that expansion. We're just watching at IdrA's money right now, and we see he's not quite ready to drop it anyways. But there's that pylon we were talking about. And back over to HerO's base, where we've been kind of keeping an eye on him in the mini-map. We see that Forge is just about complete. Now, the fact that he isn't going to be going with a gateway first means he's probably going to be sitting in his base for a little while. I think going, basically walling off, getting that early air, and trying to get map control back from IdrA. Because that's one nice thing about IdrA getting those Zerglings, or that spawning pool very early, is he's going to be able to throw out some Zerglings, control the watchtowers, make sure HerO doesn't push out with a small amount of forces looking for overlords, etc. But once that air comes into play, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. IdrA is going to very quickly lose map control, and he's got to watch his overlords. I mean, the guy is a genius, so I'm sure that he is not going to be leaving a whole bunch of them littered around the map to be killed and picked off by the air. But we'll still see what happens. Notice how he has his Overlord parked up at the top. Don't think even HerO knows about it just yet, but that is alright. As IdrA's expansion going down, getting the gas as well. Probably going to be getting that metabolic boost. I mean, really, that Zergling speed can come in handy at any point in the game. If you've got to do a counterattack run by, it's great then. If you've got to get a good surround on some Stalkers, some stray sentries, maybe catch them off guard before they lay down some force fields, that's good too. So, plenty of uses all around for that ability. Now, notice he's also got a second Queen on the way. Very smart move, I think. Again, this kind of gets back to the whole anticipating air pressure from his opponent. He knows these spawning positions. It just lends itself so very well to that style of play. Now, HerO's expansion is complete. We're probably going to be seeing a probe transfer here at some point. Yep, there we go. Just a few of them running on double gas right now. Nothing else up here. No upgrade on the way just yet. Cybernetics core as well. There is a little bit of a hole right there. Just one space, enough for one Zealot, which is warping in as we speak. IdrA continuing to run around. You see he's doing a good job being active, not just sending out Zerglings, controlling the watchtowers and letting it sit, but rather he's had Zerglings running around. You see he's chasing the probe, keeping HerO on his toes, making sure that HerO constantly micros that around. If nothing else, it's a good diversion. You know, if you can stick one Zergling on the scout, it forces your opponent to keep moving that scout around, or else he's going to lose it. Whereas you, I mean, unless you see it go walling off into, or walloping off into their main base, you can pretty much just let it do its own thing, chasing that probe. Now, there's the Evolution Chamber going down, going to be getting some upgrades, but more importantly, Spore Crawler, again, kind of a reaction to what we were talking about earlier. Economy is looking pretty darn good for both players, 32 to 33, so not a lot of actual pressure from either person just yet. Again, HerO not really focused so much on the ground troops at this point. Stargate is on the way, just has the one gateway. Pretty much, now that he knows, okay, I've got a cannon, I've got my sentry, he's going to be dropping a second cannon as well. He's got his Zealot there in a position. there's not a lot that IdrA can really do to bust this up. If he wanted to, he may be able to come over and shove a whole bunch of roaches down, and HerO would not really be able to respond too well to that. He would not have enough energy to block off the roaches. And even if this thing did get up to 100, still, 2 force fields, 15 seconds, not a lot that HerO could really do in the time allotted. He's got that 1 Stargate, that's about it. But IdrA is actually content continuing to work on the economy. Look how hard he's journeying up right now, man. He has got a 10-worker lead on his opponent currently, with 7 more on the way. He's got missile attacks level 1 and also a roach war incoming. So we're going to be seeing him transition to that kind of heavy ground, maybe looking to put some pressure on that natural. A lot of times what happens with Protoss players when they go force, fast, expand, they kind of buckle down here in a little bit, and then, like I said, they just kind of let themselves be contained, and except for the air, don't do a lot of map control. Now, of course, if the Zerg scouts a bunch of gateways there, it's going to be a different story. But we can spot HerO dropping a robotics facility, still 1 gateway. You see, he's just now dropping 3 additional ones. And the first Void Ray is going to be finally heading out now. We see it's already got 1 kill, pretty much just an Overlord, I believe, as we head on down. Watch IdrA. You see he's trying to pull back his second Overlord away from that Void Ray. What is going to be waiting for him? We see 2 Spore Crawlers. We've also got 1 Queen as well. That's about it. This should be plenty to hold off any sort of light harassment that comes from HerO. Of course, that Phoenix coming over, scouting, getting some pretty decent information, and also he spots the infestation pit. So that is going to be a big piece of information for HerO right there. We'll wait and see how exactly he adjusts that. Do note there is a Warp Prism on the way, which I think will open up some pretty interesting opportunities we'll touch on in just a second. I'm a little curious to see if this Void Ray is going to make it out away from these Queens in time. I do believe it will. Yes, indeed, it does. We see these Queens actually both have barely enough energy to throw off 2 heals. So kind of that's one thing that you kind of watch out for. If maybe you're fighting against 2 of them, you've only got 1 Void Ray and 1 Phoenix, you could maybe lift up 1, but you know, if the other one has the ability to heal, kind of makes it a little bit more difficult. You gotta watch the energy in the Phoenix. That's a whole other tangent we're not going to talk about right now. What we are going to talk about is that IdrA, you see, he's kind of still trying to keep map control on the ground, at least, despite the fact that there are some Void Rays running around. Now this is very smart by HerO, coming over here with this Warp Prism. I think what his plan is to block off the ramp. You see, he's landing in a space where IdrA does not see. This means he'll be able to deploy this, warp in more units, harass the main mineral line, while keeping the forces down to natural at bay. You see the roaches are the only things parked down there. Nothing is up here except for a Queen. Now we're also seeing some Zealots warped in. Again, this is because the Protoss wants to save up his gas for other things, such as more sentries, possibly Stalker, Void Ray, etc. But he's going for this infestation pit, which is an incredibly smart move. IdrA is doing pretty much anything he can at this point. The problem is all of those Zealots were already at the infestation pit when they were fungled, so it didn't really do a whole lot of good. It brought them down, it killed them, but that's about it. The problem is now all of these Void Rays are running around unchecked. Not a lot that he could do about it at this point. You see, he's used a lot of his energy on those fungals, taking out the Zealots, which, yes, were a threat, but it's pretty much just a really, really bad situation that HerO has put IdrA in. We see he's got all of these roaches here, and really, he would be able to maybe do a decent counterattack up here, but with more Stalkers as well, it's going to keep that pressure on, and it's giving IdrA a reason to keep these at base. We can, of course, look over here at HerO and see he's got 4 cannons. The wall is still looking pretty darn good, and I think he would be able to hold off an attack should IdrA do it, which we actually see him heading down right now. Really, that's the only logical choice for him left. He's got all of these roaches up here, nothing to kill on the ground. Void Ray is taking out his main base, and he's got, you know, he's got all this firepower, but nothing to do with it. So you might as well try to poke at the Protoss. What we see here, there's 2 sentries, may be able to hold off for a little while. I don't know how much that IdrA is actually going to commit to this attack. We see he's going to be losing 2 roaches. He sees those cannons, 3 additional ones going down as well, and he's like, okay, not going to be such a good idea after all. So his choices are just shrinking by the second. He is left with, let's actually just take a look real quick and see the units. A few Zerglings, several roaches, 2 Queens, that's it, man. And these Queens really don't have a lot of energy left to heal. The roaches finally have some targets, so the Zerglings are going to be mopping those up. But again, the Void Rays. HerO has done a phenomenal job keeping the air and the land pressure. He's done a good balance, pretty much just keeping IdrA, you know, okay, well, I've knocked out the infestation pit, so, oh, well, there's the GG. All right, cool. I was going to say, knocked out the infestation pit. That's the first key structure. That's the biggest anti-air he's got to worry about. Fungal plus infested Terrans. Those are really, really strong. So knocking that out really limited IdrA's options for countering air early on. The Spore Crawlers were the next target, and you see once those were taken out, Spine Crawlers as well, and you're left, well, pretty much just a shattered economy, 38 to 63, whole bunch of queens that have been taken out, and of course, no potential for a counterattack. So that is going to conclude game number 1, folks. HerO versus IdrA. I hope you enjoyed it, got something from it. We're going to be continuing on to game number 2 next and see what happens.